Hello everyone, welcome to the BAM ComicsCast. It will get catchier. You join us on a cold January night. We've both got cups of tea, but there is a lot that has happened in the world of comics. So Stu Taylor is here to talk to me, Neil Gorton, about comic-y things. What are we going to talk about in tonight's show, Stu?
A few things. I like to call this episode 50 Shades of Suicide Squad. I think.
Crumbs.
That's it. So I think we're going to kick off with the new Suicide Squad trailer.
Okay.
After that, we will talk about David Bowie.
What is the comic connection to David Bowie?
So there's quite a lot of connections with comic books with Bowie, which I guess if you know his work is not that surprising since he was influenced by anything and everything. So we'll go into detail about the comic books he used to read, which we know about, and also how his work influenced other comic book types.
Oh, crumbs. All right.
And then after that, we're going to go into our Sinister Society of Stupid, where we look at a lame villain, and there's going to be a Suicide Squad flavour to that.
All right, well, knowing very little about Suicide Squad, I shall look forward to that. Right, let's roll into the new Suicide Squad trailer that dropped today. I've just seen it 10 minutes ago, give or take. It's all right.
Yeah, I think it's for anyone who hasn't seen it, it's a second trailer. We had one late last year. I think I said to you at the time, my concerns about it were it looked a bit dark, looked a bit too po-faced. I think they've certainly addressed that this time around. There's a lot more humour to it. I think we discussed it off the podcast earlier that we think they've definitely been influenced by Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, the last trailer was maybe, well, how many trailers is this? Is this trailer number 3?
No, it's number 2.
Is it really just number 2? Oh, okay. Well, the last one was dark, but I didn't really have a problem with that. But apparently many people did.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I've got not necessarily an issue. I think I've got concerns with the whole approach I think Warner's are taking with their sort of DC Comics universe,
which is brown predominantly.
It's brown. It's I don't know. It just seems a lot darker, which I guess there's always room for that. And it's good to have a counter to what Marvel are doing when Marvel will take a different approach.
Their movies seem to be set in a mid-level of Gears of War.
Yeah,
where everything's brown and dark.
Yeah.
Right.
So I don't know. I think the reason it's probably a subject for another cast, I guess, in more detail.
Never.
Why Marvel was so successful?
Okay. I thought we were going to do Suicide Squad.
No.
Why are Marvel so successful?
Well, I think for me, it was, the reason they've worked is because each movie pretty much is a different genre in itself. So most recently we've had Ant-Man, which is a heist movie. Captain America Winter Soldier, which is still the best out of a lot, I personally think.
Right.
Was a kind of 1970s conspiracy thriller. And so yeah, each one's kind of, they do seem to stand alone. They do seem to have a different flavour, you know. And Guardians of the Galaxy was a kind of goofy sci-fi.
Yeah, they stand on their own. They're all connected, but they all work. You don't have to have seen them all. It's just a little Brucey bonus if you have.
Exactly. And I think and again, it's not fair to kind of call out and judge the DC movie universe on one movie, which was Man of Steel, and essentially a few trailers from Batman v Superman and Suicide Squad. But like you said earlier about the whole brownness, that seems to be a theme that runs through it. Some of the early concept artwork, which also came out today for their future movies, like The Flash, Aquaman,
my boy Aquaman,
and Justice League. There is that kind of brown orangey theme running through, so it's kind of a homogenous. I don't know. Again, it's not fair to judge him, but I don't know if
life isn't fair, Stuart.
Life's not fair.
Life isn't fair. So why should comic movies be? This is good tea.
It's good tea.
Good tea.
Very good tea. So yeah. Anyway, so back to Suicide Squad. New trailer. Yeah, impressed. I know there's a lot of people moaning or griping of the kind of ballsy approach they've taken with the Joker. You know, heavily tattooed, metal teeth. But I think it's their approach. I think it's pretty good, considering they're trying to follow up Heath Ledger, which is. I must confess, I've never had a problem with this Joker. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm getting older, and I'm a bit older and wiser. Yeah, but like, it's fine. It's fine. I kind of went into it with like, this isn't the Joker for me. Like, I grew up with Jack Nicholson as the Joker. I didn't actually grow up with Jack Nicholson, and like later I got
what
Heath
an amazing
Ledger.
childhood that would have been.
Amazing, imagine that. And like, you know, like even Cesar Romero, like, you know, I fondly remember that, but I understand that different generations have their own Joker, and I think very much like this is a Joker for a younger generation, as is Suicide Squad in general. Like, it's all very well being angry on the internet, but it's not for you. It's not for you.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. I mean, you grew up with Jack Nicholson. I did grow up with Cesar Romero.
What a ledge!
What a ledge! You know, and that was a pretty good show to grow up with. Yeah.
Did you see, diverging slightly already so early on? Do you know how they're doing Wayne Manor from the '60s in Lego?
I was not aware of this, but
right. So they're doing like, it's going to cost, you know, set you back a fair bit, but they're doing Wayne Manor and the Batcave, and it's all '60s Batman. And it comes with like 60s Catwoman and Batman and Robin. But they've got a Cesar Romero Joker with it. And painted on the minifigure is still his moustache under the white face paint.
Amazing.
That's amazing attention to detail.
Yeah.
Fair play to you.
No, that's fair play. Actually, that's a good segue, because I think Warner's must have got the rights back for the 60s show, because they're putting in a lot of the video games that are coming out. I mean, I unashamedly have rinsed Arkham Knight. They did do like a 60s DLC pack for that. Yeah. So you had like Burt Ward, Robin in his undies, and you've got the kind of the cloth. Yeah. Adam West outfit, and they even had Julie Newmar Catwoman, which was, you know, playing the games, playing the DLC, and, you know, with those outfits, it's kind of like, it's hilarious, it's ridiculous, you know.
That was the 60s. Well, it was more the 70s. 69, wasn't it, Batman?
It was early. It was like, I want to say 66.
We should probably know this. Yeah, no, you're right. Batman 66.
Yeah.
You're right. You're right.
Obviously, I didn't grow up with it then. I watched it in the late 70s, early 80s, but you know, that was Batman. I think it was a Batman cartoon at the time as well for me growing up. Mm-hmm. But yeah, then for me, I guess it was Jack Nicholson. Which in '89, which was
fine.
Yeah. I have to say, I don't think the film's aged very well. I think I watched it about 10 years ago, and it's kind of at the time.
It's down there if you want to borrow it. Oh, okay. You can borrow Burton Batman.
Just the first two. We'll leave it after that.
Really, right? You won't make time for the third? I love Batman Forever. Batman Forever is, if not one of my favourite movies, definitely one of my favourite Batman movies.
I think I liked it at the time,
right?
But I don't know. Then I had this old phase of it. It felt like it was a throwback to the '60s show.
Yeah.
Wasn't a fan of the Riddler, the way they did the Riddler.
Really?
No, and Two-Face I thought was a missed opportunity, which they kind of pulled back in Dark Knight.
Yeah, why did they get... Because it was Billy D. Williams, wasn't it? In the Burton verse was originally Harvey Dent.
Yeah.
For like... So he was in the first film.
That was it, yeah.
And I think he asked for too much money to come back for Batman Returns.
Oh, is that the story? Oh, okay.
As I understand it. And then by the time Batman Forever rolled around, they're like, no one remembers Billy D. Williams from the first two. Let's make him...
Tommy Lee Jones.
So you don't partake of the third. Interesting. And I'm guessing you would never set aside time for Batman and Robin.
Oh, no. It's probably still one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
It is, but you can't like even enjoy it. Like your day's too full to like...
I think I could watch it now. I think, when was it? 15 years ago?
God, was it?
Yeah, I think
in Gotham City.
Yeah. I don't know. At the time, I was fanboy rage, so upset watching it. It was just like, for me, it was like they'd set up a series of decent movies, and they just,
And that out of place Smashing Pumpkins song.
Yeah, which I actually quite liked, I'll be honest.
Which came back for the Watchmen movie.
This is going really niche. I think it was only for the trailer though.
Yeah, you're probably right.
They did like a slowed down version of it for the trailer.
That's right. Anyway, we're totally getting off topic from Suicide Squad. No,
we're not. We're fine. It's good. These segues are good.
See, my problem with Suicide Squad is I know who Deadshot is, and I know who Harley Quinn is, and I know who Joker is, and I know who Killer Croc is.
Yeah.
Do you think there's enough... Well, I was going to say, do you think there's enough star power? But that trailer they released today where they showed everyone's powers, I'm like, oh, okay, I can understand these characters a bit more. I'm kind of more invested in this.
Yeah. But you get the whole, like, have you ever read any Suicide Squad? So
Never.
Do you get the idea of the concept where they're expendable? So
yeah, it's the Dirty Dozen.
Yeah.
In comics.
So a lot of them are going to be lame and kind of forgettable because, well, it's inevitable at least one or two are going to cark it.
You reckon there's going to be a body count?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's what the comic was like. The comic took sort of forgotten about one-hit wonder DC supervillains. It's only recently they've kind of thrown in some bigger names. Like Harley Quinn's only a recent addition to the Suicide Squad. Like the early run, they were kind of very low-tier characters that no one really cared about. So they could bump them off.
Yeah.
Or even worse in some ways. Losing limbs or...
Jeez.
Yeah, it's the original sort of John Ostrander run was pretty good and pretty dark. I have to say I haven't read much of the recent stuff. To me,
I noticed they've really ramped up as like Harley Quinn takes off.
Yeah.
I've noticed that like Suicide Squad is right next to it on the shelf. Like they've got this whole new audience in Harley Quinn, so no wonder she's got such a prominent role in it.
Yeah, and I think Margot Robbie's going to be great in it.
I think she will be.
Interesting, they've kind of toned down the New York Bronx accent. In fact, it looks like it's gone completely. Yeah,
it does. It looks like it's gone completely, and maybe that's just because it just can't be replicated without being cartoony.
Well, yeah, I guess no, absolutely. What I've seen of her in The Wolf of Wall Street, she's got that accent though, right? Am I right? She's got that kind of broad.
She can do it,
so she can definitely. That's why I thought she was cast. Surprising they didn't do that. And it looks like they're going to take the modern origin for her. Yeah, where in the original appearances she was supposed to be a psychiatrist who became obsessed with the Joker and
became smitten.
Yeah. This one, again, it's only by a trailer. Looks like she does get booted into a vat of chemicals.
Yeah, because there was that sort of almost like christening rising from the vat. Yeah, could well be.
All speculation. And again, it's not for us. It's aimed at an audience who have got no prior knowledge of this, so they can pretty much do what they want.
True. You know who I also don't have a problem with? I know Jared Leto's getting like a lot of, it's fair to say, abuse. Like, I think you'll be absolutely fine as an actor. Like, the cookie behind the scenes stuff is just like, mate, there's only so many hours in the day.
Like giving Margot Robbie a rat for her birthday or something?
Yeah, it's just like, no one cares, mate. Just play the part. No, I think Leto is going to do like an amazing performance no matter which way you slice it. I also don't have a problem with Will Smith being Deadshot, which a lot of people did.
Is there issues with that?
There was issues with that he was just going to be too cheesy, but I think people forget that Will Smith can really act when he needs to.
Yeah.
Definitely. Personality-wise, as a person, I don't know, bit weird. Yeah. But, no, I've got no problems with being Deadshot.
No, interesting to see. I'm actually looking forward to it. More than I am, I think, Batman v Superman. Which I'm still, I don't know.
I want to see out of attrition now. I'm not going to turn my back on it.
No, I don't know. I really want it to be good, and I think
it's going to be good.
You don't think it's going to be good? You do think it would, do?
Nothing I've seen thus far makes me want to go to the cinema and see it. I'd watch it on a Sunday movie, like it was on the telly.
I don't think it's going to be too much happening, too much setup. I think Affleck's going to be brilliant. I think he's going to be a really good Bruce Wayne, a really good Batman.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's... and also, actually, the segue again, I like the fact that what we've heard in the clips, his Batman voice isn't annoying as hell as Christian Bale. That's the thing I really didn't like about those movies. I thought they're brilliant, consistently, apart from his Batman voice, which was just toe-curlingly awful.
I think Batman vs Superman is going to be is not... Well, we already know it's not going to be straight up a fight between the two. Like, they let that cat out the bag with that last trailer. But I think that even that's going to be such a small part of it. I think they'll bound together very fast to, like, take on a mutual enemy, even beyond Doomsday. There's clips of, like, things flying about in the... Actually, do you know what? I'm gonna spoil this for you now, because...
You've seen it?
Well...
Your buds with Affleck. You got your insider.
Busy mates, right. This is a potential spoiler, but it's out there, so you know, if you're listening to this, you know. Right, so you and I went to the comic shop the other day, as we are wont to do, and naturally, my attention was drawn to the Funkos.
Oh, yes.
So I was reading the back of the Funko box for Batman and Superman, and it mentioned, from that scene in the desert, where, like, Superman comes flying down and everyone kneels down, that's described as Nightmare Batman.
Right.
So there's obviously going to be... I think what's going to play out is we're going to start off with a section in the future where, like, something bad's happening and they have to go back and, like, not fight or something like that. There's got to be a reason for a sequence showing a world where these two don't get on.
But I know that scene you're talking about. It's the one where he's captured and Superman comes in, takes his cowl off.
Yeah.
Apparently that's a nightmare Bruce Wayne has or something. That doesn't actually happen. That's not...
I don't buy it because there's expanded shots of that where Batman's still in that outfit and there's, like, flying... what's the character's name? I should know this. Like, Darkseid style aliens flying about. And that's too much for an Easter egg, I reckon.
Would you reckon that's foreshadowing then for the Justice League movie?
It's either foreshadowing for the Justice League movie or they've pulled a blinder on us and that's going to be a major plot point in this movie.
Maybe. I think there's loads we haven't seen and I don't know, I'm very sceptical about it. Very sceptical. And I want it to be good. I genuinely want it to be good, but I don't know. It just feels forced. They're just like making this whole, we're going to do a series of movies, here's where they're coming out, it's going to be all of this. I don't know. And again, with Marvel, it was kind of organic. They had Iron Man and the Hulk, and I think those whole scenes with Samuel Jackson were kind of tagged on at the last minute, like filmed like a month before they came out as a kind of, we'll give it a go, see what happens. Yeah,
I don't think, when you say it was organic might be the right word for it, because I don't think they had any faith that Iron Man was going to kick off the way it did.
No, it was kind of like, we'll take a punt.
Yeah.
If people buy it, they're into it, we can then do follow-ups. But there was no plan in the same way that Warner Brothers have got a clear plan, defined it from the offset. We're going to do Batman v Superman, it's going to go into Suicide Squad, and it's going to go into Aquaman, Flash, Justice League Part 1, Justice League Part 2, and it's like, really? And they're going to do a Cyborg movie as well. All the characters are going to get their own movies. Series of movies, I just don't know.
I think you're hitting that resistance because... because we're old men and, like, all the kids watch their Arrow and they watch their Flash and their Supergirl.
Yeah, I watch
Do you
all
watch
those.
It? Do you watch the Flash?
I do watch the Flash,
right.
And I prefer the Flash to the Arrow. Actually, I watch both.
Right.
I think the Flash it found its stride towards the second half of the first season, and it's done some really good stuff. It's clearly aimed at a teen audience, aimed at a young audience. So you get your kind of Dawson's Creek style subplots going on, but it blends that. It's got elements of Buffy with that kind of big bad stuff going on, and like the second season's pretty good.
But this is the impression I get from the Suicide Squad trailer. I think that's the audience it's going for, and I'm fine with that. I'm happy to buy into it as an aged comic fan and just get my little glimpse of the characters I like up on the big screen.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's going to be the movie or the franchise spin-off for me in terms of, like, the DC thing.
Okay.
Marvel's got... Everyone can enjoy Marvel, and I think DC Warner are aiming for the youths.
Yeah. But don't get me wrong, my resistance isn't... It's not that it's the stuff. It's not. It's going to be the stuff I've grown up with, taken a different direction.
Right.
I just think my resistance is more that it seems forced. This whole overarching structure. It doesn't feel like they're going to be standalone movies. And again, said earlier on, it's not fair to judge it on a series of trailers and concept artworks and
No.
But
so what are you looking forward to then about Suicide Squad?
I'm looking forward to Jared Leto.
Right.
His take on it. I think it's the right move to do something completely different with that character.
Yeah. Because
visually, it's so departed from Heath Ledger, which I think they absolutely need to do.
Mm-hmm.
Margot Robbie, I think will be good. It's going to be good to see Harley Quinn finally on the big screen.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think it's gonna. It looks like it's going to be a kind of, like you say, what do you say, Dirty Dozen?
Yeah.
Which I don't think we've actually had as a superhero movie yet.
No.
We've had like heist movies, like Ant-Man. We've had apocalyptic adventures like Age of Ultron.
Yeah.
So I think this is going to be different. It's genuinely going to be different.
Do you think? So what do you reckon your body count is of Suicide Squad? How many of the original squad that we're setting out with? Like, give me a number of how many are going to make it to the end of the film.
So I reckon that'll be at one casualty. I reckon.
Right.
Possibly two. Any more than that, I'd be surprised. I think they want to get a franchise out of this. Want to get a series out of this.
Yeah.
One of the characters we're going to talk about later, who he's my shoe-in for.
Jeez, brown bread.
Yeah, he's dead already. But yeah, I think I've got high hopes for that one.
All right. Well, let's see how it plays out. When's it out?
It's talking August. So we've got Batman v Superman end of March.
Yeah.
And then August we've got Suicide Squad.
I'll definitely go and see Suicide Squad. You're gonna have to work on me for Batman versus Superman.
I think there's a lot of people who are kind of reluctant about that, actually.
I might buy the Funkos, but I'm not going to go and see the film.
They got a sale for that.
No sale.
It's a god-awful small affair to the girl with the mousy hair, but her mummy is yelling no, and her daddy has told her to go.
All right. Where were you the day David Bowie died?
I was in a hotel in Poland.
Oh, that's quite globetrotting of you.
Yeah, it was quite surreal. Hearing it break on Sky News in a hotel room in Poland, and Eamon Holmes saying that he thought it was a hoax, and they were going to check with Bowie's publicist, and then going to the advert break, coming back and saying, yeah, it's confirmed. I remember I was literally checking out, so I literally rushed out the hotel room thinking it was really surreal.
Yeah.
Getting in a cab, hearing Polish radio on, and, my Polish is pretty much non-existent.
Yeah.
And hearing random song titles thrown in and excerpts, and it was like, yeah, he's
crumbs. He's gone. He's gone. 69. A very fashionable age to pass away this year, unfortunately.
Apparently so.
Rickman was the same. I think Lemmy was 70. I want to say.
Yeah. Because didn't he have his birthday recently? There's a big showbiz bash in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Less than a month before.
Legends of them all, but there's a reason we're talking about David Bowie on the BAM Comics Podcast. Tell me about David Bowie in comic books.
Well, yes. So it's not a tenuous, let's talk about Bowie, let's find a reason.
Right.
Anyone who's followed his career knows he's had loads of different alter egos, which is, as superheroes do.
Yeah.
So we've got like Aladdin Sane, Thin White Duke, but
personal favourite,
yeah, and the most famous of all is Ziggy Stardust, who's arguably a kind of cosmic superhero himself.
Fair enough.
So that's kind of the obvious influences that Bowie's had from comic books. He's actually influenced comics himself. Neil Gaiman's Lucifer character in the Sandman series from the 80s and 90s was drawn like a hunky-dory folk era Bowie, and Gaiman's actually put that on record. That's the influence he was going for. So big long hair, curls, slightly androgynous. Scott's writer Grant Morrison in his Batman R.I.P. run in 2009. His take on the Joker in that series, he called like the Thin White Duke of Death. Pretty on the nose. Pretty on the nose.
Yeah, he's not messing about.
No messing about there. And go back to Gaiman. He's even said in an interview with Wired around about the same time in 2009. He was talking about if they ever did like a movie version of the Dark Knight Returns, which is like the pensionable Batman, 60-year-old Batman. He thought that Bowie as modern day Bowie would be brilliant in that role. So reading that again and then looking at Dark Knight Returns and looking at the scenes where he gets taken out of the Arkham Asylum and put on like a chat show, American style chat show, you could totally see Bowie doing that. He'd been absolutely awesome as that.
I can't get over the thought of Bowie as like 60s Batman Joker with like henchmen just fighting Adam West.
Oh, yeah, it'd be amazing. Would have been amazing.
Yeah, it would have been slightly too young. He'd have been off the back of Laughing Gnome, but it would have been so good.
Yeah, I don't know. That'd be,
boys.
Yeah, that would be great actually.
You won't escape from this one, Dark Knight. All right, okay. So he's influenced some of the greats.
Some of the greats, and it's still happening now. Bring it back to modern day comics.
Yeah.
Bowie's influence is still very much felt. You've got Kieran Gillen and Jamie McKelvey's Wicked and the Divine series.
It's all right.
It's all right. So, like their Phonogram series, this is massively influenced by pop music. In particular, this series, as you know, but for people who don't know, it's focused on a group of gods called the Pantheon. And the kind of story is that every 90 years they're reincarnated. So McKelvey said recently, after Bowie's death, that each of the 12 members of the Pantheon were originally going to be based on a different persona or aspect of Bowie.
Bullshit. I don't buy it.
Well, no, they didn't do it. In the end, they only focused on Lucy, the character Lucy, who looks like the Thin White Duke.
She does.
Bowie.
Milk and peppers, apparently. A diet of nothing but milk and red peppers for 2 years. And cocaine.
And cocaine, yeah, that's the other thing.
Achieved that look.
Yeah, something to aspire to.
Well, in my state of life, yeah, it may be called for. Not the cocaine part, just literally the living off peppers and milk might actually help.
Oh, keep you regular, wouldn't it? What's the peppers thing? What's so good about peppers that's gonna?
It was only red peppers.
Right.
No other coloured peppers.
Okay, this needs further research, I think.
Yeah.
So anyway, back to Wicked and Divine.
Right.
Yeah, so Lucy's clearly Thin White Duke.
Indeed.
Very androgynous.
Yeah.
In fact, there was a cover I remember seeing, and it riffs off that 1976 mugshot, which goes back to this whole era when Bowie was on his strange diet and got busted in New York with Iggy Pop for possession of marijuana.
Naughty boys.
Naughty boy. So there's that. So there's this influence that Bowie's had on comics. Bowie himself was a voracious reader. There was his top 100 books list published. About 3 years ago is when his comeback album the next day came out. Alongside of this, they had the V&A did their David Bowie is.
I went. It was good.
You went. I'm gutted I missed it.
Mate, there was literally props from the Labyrinth there. You missed it hard.
Any Laughing Gnome era kind of wardrobe?
No. Like I remember playing the Laughing Gnome for people in college and them just not seeing why anyone would want to listen to this. I'm like, this is amazing, cheesy.
Yeah. It's one of the greatest
B-list rarities. Yeah. Like, how do you not know this existed? But
one of the greatest songwriters of our generation.
That's where he kicked off. Yeah. That's where he kicked off.
So they did a list of his top 100 books.
Right.
He had some classics in there, like Lita and other things I can't remember. But it was a mix of art books, mix of like sort of hardcore literature, and then randomly thrown in there were like some eclectic selection of comics.
Right.
He said like the Beano. Which you're like, all right, okay, I get that. And then he's a big fan of Viz, and you can see photos on the internet of him on a train reading Viz. Big fan of Viz.
I can't see any of that. Can you imagine Bowie reading the Beano? Like,
but he's a child of the generation, so he would have grown up in the 50s.
The Bash Street Kids are at it again. They're spitting ink from straws.
Now you say it, I can see it. I can absolutely see it. Absolutely.
Dennis the Menace is going to get a slipper ring from his dad. Well, maybe.
Well,
maybe if that's what he says he read.
That's what he says he read.
All right.
That's what made him what he was. Now you're saying it. I can
where was his Bash Street Kids phase?
Imagine that.
Just slotted in between Aladdin Sane and the Thin White.
I'm trying to think of his wardrobe. Was there ever like a red
Dennis
and black
the Menace,
striped
that would
jumper?
be amazing. Yeah. I'm the musical menace.
He missed a trick.
Boy,
Missed
come
the
back
trick.
to us.
Yeah.
Your work was not done. We needed
Damn
your
it.
Dennis the Menace phase. The Viz is a strange one.
Right.
Because I've never... Viz has given me some proper laughs, admittedly. But
And it's still going.
It's still going. Still going. I'm stunned that Bowie would take anything from the Viz. I don't know what he'd get out of it, other than just he was human after all and enjoyed a good giggle.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I kind of... I think it started like 79, 80. It was kind of... it was very underground. It wasn't kind of easy to get hold of. I remember I remember started reading it like late 80s, mid to late 80s, when you could get it in Smiths.
Right.
And it was like on the top shelf, and it was kind of... At the time... there'd been nothing like that in the UK. I know in the US there was a whole underground comic scene in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
But I remember it was such a unique thing. There were loads of, rip-offs that came out soon after. But so I guess at the time, if you think that Bowie had grown up reading Beano, and then Viz is an adult Beano, I guess that I could see why it would appeal. It's like it's a comic I read as a kid, but now it's grown up. Maybe he's a big fan of Buster Gonad and the Fat Slags,
The Fat Slags are at it again. Amazing. I mean, it's weird to walk in... I was going to say the same shoes as David Bowie, but I guess it's weird to think that you would have found the same things funny as we mortals would have found funny.
Well, because being a god, I guess there is that,
Yeah. But, hey, fair play to him. Fair play to him.
Yeah, so again in that list, there was another alternative indie underground comic called Raw, which didn't really make it over here unless you were kind of frequenting comic shops of the 80s.
Yes.
And it was a kind of an anthology of alternative underground comic strips of that time. So quite how he found it, I don't know. He must have gone to comic shops to kind of dig that one out. It's not something you'd have found in Smiths or in the high street.
I'd love to hear Bowie in an argument about which run of Superman was best in canon.
Yeah.
Just a real comic shop guy argument.
Yeah.
Like not rating something over another. Just one of the people. Yep. But yeah, I guess he was that he sought stuff out. This will be a topic of discussion for another podcast, I dare say. He went out of his way to find strange and unusual comic books.
Well, yeah, I mean, the thing that we've spoken about at length is the other book on the list, which kind of sits in between being a comic book and an art book, was one called Octobriana and the Russian Underground.
Yes.
Which was basically, she was a kind of Russian Wonder Woman character created by this underground youth movement in the Soviet Union. She was busty, Amazonian, red star on her forehead. This kind of visual stuff really appealed to Bowie, and he was inspired by that group.
Yeah.
There's a very complicated story behind that, where it's probably one of the biggest publishing hoaxes ever. And he was so inspired, he was actually going to make a movie, and he had songs written for it, costumes designed for it. But yeah, that's probably a subject for another time. But there's a whole complicated web of that. So he was very influenced by those kind of stuff. He took those comic influences. I mean, you look at his characters. He was creating alter egos, creating personas.
It's not that far fetched, I suppose. I just don't know anyone that could follow in his footsteps now.
No, he was. I mean, it's one of those things where when people pass, big celebrities passes, people are always kind of never have a bad thing to say. And I think with Bowie, he genuinely look at his career. I know that we kind of watched pretty much every documentary that was pumped out after he died, and it's just remarkable how much he achieved, what he was still achieving. Even before he died, I think that to me was like an amazing move to do a new album, to put a play, to have other stuff being in the can recorded, knowing that your time was ticking, but not to tell anyone. And then the videos he put out, knowing he was, potentially only had weeks or maybe months to go. Yeah, I mean, that to me is like, that's to the very end. He was a showman and an artist. It's a fair play.
Laughed at the Fat Slags.
He loved the Fat Slags.
Loved the Fat Slags.
And Buster Gonad.
And Buster Gonad. Yeah. All right. doubling back to Suicide Squad. It's this week's Sinister Society of Stupid.
Sinister Society, yes.
Where you, Stuart Taylor, introduced to me some of the rubbishest, which is a word, villains of comic yesteryear. And I believe you have something really special up your sleeves.
I do.
Who you got for me?
Well, last time we spoke about Egghead.
We did.
You can remember Egghead. Who
Much
was it?
to my chagrin, we did.
We did, which was Ant-Man villain.
Yeah.
There was we were talking about Ant-Man the movie, so it kind of made sense to talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
So we spoke about Suicide Squad. So I've kind of chosen, it's an easy pick, a villain from Suicide Squad who's in the movie, who started out in the 80s as a villain for the Firestorm superhero, who, if you watch the Flash TV series, Firestorm's been in that.
Well, so tying it all in.
Yeah, there's a connection.
I'm impressed.
So Slipknot.
Right.
Not that Slipknot.
Not that Slipknot.
Unfortunately. So the character, his origin is a chap called Christopher Weiss, who develops... It sounds so dodgy as I'm saying this. He developed a special adhesive, special kind of glue, right?
Right.
That he uses to treat his ropes.
Right.
Are you with me?
Yeah.
So it's supposed to make them really stronger than steel. So already, modern day sensibilities, I'm thinking 50 Shades.
Okay.
Christian Grey decides to don... Well, if you look at the original visual of Slipknot, which we'll share on Twitter...
Yeah.
It looks like he's wearing a kimono.
It looks like a sexy monk.
Sexy monk.
With lots of ropes and hoods and masks.
Yeah. Imagine if he just turned up for like a supervillain group.
He would be, in that guy's there, he would be laughed out.
Yeah. Like auditioning to be like in the member of like Lex Luthor's like new Injustice League. It's like, what do you do?
I wouldn't say this outfit is sexual as much as is sensual. Is more of the vibe I get from there.
Well, it kind of got that kind of, I don't know. So
there's a lot of velvet involved in this.
So Boogie Nights?
Right.
I haven't seen it for a long time, but there's a whole scene where they're having like a party and it's like a bit of a swinger party, right?
Right.
So you wouldn't look out of place in that. It's got that kind of like silk dressing gown thing going on.
He definitely strikes me as... Well, he certainly strikes me as a man that knows what to do with ropes.
Exactly. So he knows what to do with ropes. That's his big shtick. It's like, I can put my, quotation, special adhesive on my ropes and make them really strong. That's an opening line. That's a good line to use in the bar, isn't it?
I can see how he worked back then. Maybe. When did he crop up?
80s, late 80s.
Oh, even for the 80s, like maybe 40 years prior, that's acceptable.
Yeah. Well, there's a reason he was in the Suicide Squad. It was like he didn't have, it's like he's expendable.
He truly is expendable. Like,
yeah.
I could see him as a 60s. I could see him like battling, like Superman when Superman was just awful.
Yeah.
Like fighting robots and bears. A scientist that invents a really strong rope like that I can buy. And in the 80s, this was truly barrel scraping stuff.
Oh yeah, and the funny thing is, right? So that's his thing. That's his unique thing. Is I can make special ropes. Right. Turns out though, he's also a trained assassin. And you imagine his interview, can't you? He'd be there going, "I got really good with ropes." They're going, not feeling it. It's like, "Oh, I'm also a trained assassin." It's like, well, maybe you should open with that.
Yeah,
that
is a thing I find with going through CVs is that you've got to lead with your strengths.
Yeah. But there you go. Yeah, there you go. That's his thing.
That disappoints me more looking at him now. If he's a trained assassin but insists on using his ropes.
Yeah.
Oh, Slipknot.
You can imagine all the female team members would be a bit wary of hanging around with, wouldn't you? It'd be a bit like, can we not sit with him on the plane out for our missions?
Oh,
it's a bit sleazy.
Yeah, already I dislike him.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
Well, he's had a bit of a checkered comic book history, unsurprisingly. Right. So he's a member of the Suicide Squad in the comics. Got his arm blown off.
Oh, right. So, okay. So not like as I see him here, like in the Suicide Squad, he lost an arm.
He kind of crops up intermittently. He's kind of not been consistent through like the decades. And whenever they need like a go-to lame villain in the DC universe who they can just like, chop off a limb or murder or blow up, then we can use Slipknot. It's good with ropes.
He's not much else.
Yeah, and he hasn't been seen much since DC did the whole reboot for the New 52.
Right,
like 5 or 6 years ago.
But now he's back.
He's back. They changed the look for him in the movie. He's got the cornrows going on. Lost a kimono. Bit upset about that, I'll be honest.
Yeah, fair enough.
I think that could have worked. A bit different.
Maybe.
So, but he's my shoe-in. So basically, we go back to what we talked about earlier. He's my shoe-in to be the one. He did. He cark it. I mean, yeah. I just think he's like, yeah.
You can't, no, the principle remains, like, you can't go into a squad where you've got Deadshot and Killer Croc and Harley Quinn, like, these big names, iconic, and then your thing is ropes.
Yeah.
No, he's dead, mate. He's as good as dead. He literally, you're right, he is just cannon fodder.
So we should take bets on the running time of the movie and how when it will be he'll get it.
I'm gonna give Slipknot
2-hour movie. Let's say it's 2 hours.
2-hour movie, right? Almost. I'm gonna say like 30 minutes of exposition to set up the movie and the mission. 45 minutes tops. He's dead.
We'll go back to this.
Yeah.
Roll on August. We'll come back to this.
What do you reckon?
I reckon the first hour. I think if they structure it, you're gonna have like your first mission.
But they're not. Yeah, they're not.
And
even,
then it's going to end badly. You can introduce and they're going to be reluctant and we're not going to join your group. We're bad guys. We're not going to do.
Yeah.
Then it's going to be sent on the mission. It's
going to be like, ha, we're going to save the world.
Yeah. That's
Will
Will Smith.
And get their reprieve.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, the death of Slipknot is not going to motivate anyone. He won't be missed.
He won't be.
He won't be missed.
There you go.
That's all we've got to say about Slipknot.
And that's kind of what we are at the end of the show, I guess.
Indeed. All right, that is the end of the BAM comic podcast. You can find me at Neil Gortz on Twitter.
You can find me, Stoonami, on Twitter.
Oh, wicked. All right, we will try and be back a bit more promptly next time. But in the meantime, thanks very much for listening.
Thank you.
All right. See you later, guys.
Bye.
Bye. Do you need to do a little burp?
I did.
Right.
That'll be the tea.
Yeah. Bowie. What's your favourite Bowie song?
My favourite Bowie song would be... Well, it's going to be toss up between Life on Mars and Modern Love. Possibly.
Slipknot fighting in the front row.
Silk ropes.
Silk ropes. Imagine a Suicide Squad, but it's all Bowie's personas.
Amazing. Right, need to get Gillian and McKelvey on that.
You'll be missed, Bowie. You'll be missed.
He was very much missed.
All right.